I had a choice. Do the entire video outside where it's warm, or deal with the ambient noise of the food court here at Ayala Malls Police. There might be a crying baby later, but uh, who knows? Um, anyway, I'm here at Ayala Malls Police, just getting a rest, having something called gulaman. Gulaman is basically seaweed, I think, and it's our version of the bubble tea. Uh, but this is just basically water, sugar, and seaweed. So it's not that bad. I mean, I've had better, but this is not that bad. Because I'm also just thirsty right now. Just literally thirsty. But I've been trying a lot for the past few weeks to give you a video that tells a story about my life in the credit card industry. Um, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I did work for the financial industry. And that part of my life, well, you could say it's a highlight. It's sort of like reaching the top and also falling down embarrassingly. Well, not embarrassingly, but just annoyingly. So I've told you the story of Erica, and that when we were having lunch, I received a call for a job offer at the credit card company, and let's call this one C3 to shorten it up. And you know, it was sad that she didn't get a job there as well, but for me, it was my pinnacle for working in the corporate world. I met so many wonderful people there, and I must say, a couple of my bosses there, my direct boss, were the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. The thing is, working in that company, there is this sense of community. You have the Ivy Leaguers, which people who graduated in top schools and universities, and they're usually management. And then you have grunts like myself, you know, and that's okay. You know, you understood even in that level where you are, and for the most part, I didn't have a bad experience working for them. The only bitter taste that I got was meeting Marites. That's not the real name, but let's call her Maritas. Now, for context, in the Philippines, if someone calls you Marites, you're someone who's into gossiping. So I want to break down the name just as a tangent. Maritas is basically MA, major in arts, RI, relaying information, TES, through exaggerated statements. Well, it's a bit of a science, but you know, people use it to to call out people who gossip about other people, sometimes without basis and all that. But Maritas wasn't exactly that. This particular person that I'm talking about, and honestly, I I fell for it. I fell for her. I I had perhaps never imagined meeting someone like her. So one time, she was part of our grunt team, so to speak. Myself, I was working on screening applications for credit cards, making sure that all the information that the company needs is taken down, so that the credit division could study the application and make sure that this applicant could get a credit card or not, because at that time there was already a recession in the US, and people getting credit cards are screened more thoroughly than before. On the other hand, Maritas was sort of like a promo girl at the branch of the company, which is situated on the front of the building that we were working at. And every now and then, we'd interact, like, you know. And one time I decided to. She was in the branch, standing at the corner there. From the lobby of the building, you could see her because it was like just pure glass separating the lobby and the branch. So I approached the window, I approached the glass wall and just knocked and waved at her, and then she told me to come in. She waved at me to come in, and I did, and I spoke to her for a minute, asking if she wanted to have coffee. I was having my coffee break at that time, and it started from there. We for weeks we hang out. It was almost like a routine that I would come down around 10 a.m. in the morning, ask her to have coffee with me. There was a donut shop around the corner from the building, so that's where we usually went to. There was also a quickie mart nearby. That's where we usually get some other snacks and some other things we need. And we just talked and talked about life. Now, from my understanding, she grew up in the streets of Manila, the real Manila, but not on the exact streets. I mean, she had a home, but her life story was being abandoned by her father, and being taken care of by her mother, a single mom. And she has like a lot of resentment against her father, and but that's just part of her personality. So yeah, and I told her about my story. I told her a lot of stuff, and then when the opportunity came, I was so happy, because if she got the job, which she did, at my floor where I worked, and if she get my job and I transfer to a different account, we'd be in the same place all day. I didn't have to think about her, downstairs. I just should be there with me in the floor. And the great thing is when she got the job, I had to train her. I was, I was teaching her everything that she needs to know about the applications, about the program, about the software that we were using, and all that. It was great. We had such a great time. And it was no secret, I guess, for some of my grunt mates that I was into her. But I never really said anything to her directly, just by that time. And I guess I did, but I was enjoying the moment. I was, just being able to go out with coffee with her, sometimes dinner, And I remember this one time, she hasn't gotten the job yet, but about maybe a couple of weeks before getting the job, she was still working at the branch downstairs, and I don't know, something upset her, and she called me up and she said, "Hey Ron, could we see each other right now?" It was like around 4 in the afternoon, and I was about to clock out, maybe an hour or so before I had to clock out. So I looked around. It was so much of a busy day, but my boss, I was working near my boss, and but so when I told her, okay, I'll see what I can do. I have like 10 minutes. I'm waiting for my boss, or maybe I can excuse myself out. And the funny thing is, the excuse that I used, So when my boss came, and let's call her Kathy. When Kathy came, and I tell you, Kathy's the kind of person you don't want to disappoint. It's almost like I had this very gut feeling inside of me that she is one of the nicest persons I've met. Maybe I don't know her very well, but just by looking at her, she looked like a shampoo model. Trust me, she had like very long hair, and I'm going on a tangent and I don't care. So when she arrived, I told her, "Hey, I need to pick up someone from the airport, and I gotta leave now because the flight is this and this and that and that." So I made an excuse like that, and said, "Oh, okay. It's almost clock time anyway, so you could go if you want to. It's no issue with me." So she was so nice about it, and so I cleared up my stuff. I took care of the last things I need to do, and I rushed down to the branch. Actually, we agreed to meet up at a cafe a few blocks away from the office, and we were sitting at the patio, and we were talking about her problem. Well, it's not exactly a problem; it's more just a complaint, I guess. And then, I don't know how the topic came up, but I was looking around me because we were at the patio, and the patio had a tiny street on it, and there were cars passing by that street. And I had to admit to her that I was a bit worried because Kathy might drive by, anytime. They might see me there, and I was worried that I don't know. I thought you were going to the airport. What are you doing here? You know. So and Maritas laughed about it. She was saying, "Oh, is it that car? Is it that car?" No. And I guess that helped her a lot because just seeing her smile and laugh was something that also lifted me up at that time. And like I said, this life I had by that time, I was living it up, you know, as the song would say. I was living it up, having myself the time. And when she started working at my floor of the office, we really spent a lot of time together. And but I was actually handling a different account by then, and I had a different boss, Annette. Annette is the most wonderful boss I ever had. Not because she was very nice, not because she was uberly nice, but she had that aura in her that you don't want to mess with Annette. And it's not that I'm afraid of her, but she had a combination of both kindness and strictness that you just have to impress her a lot. And I tried my best to do so, and I hope I impressed her as a grunt employee of hers. And I think I hope I did. Anyway, during that time when Maritas and I were getting coffee and all that dinners, I was still sort of like that, dipping my toes in the water, just to be able to bring up the idea that I tell her how I feel. And one time when I was heading home, I met a former schoolmate of mine. Let's call him Ariel, because he's an Ariel. You'll get the idea once I finish the story. So it was great. It was like, oh, how great it is to know more people inside Eastwood City, And one time while Maritas and I were having coffee outside the office, Ariel passed by, and I introduced him. I introduced him to her and her to him, and and it became like a trio of friends. Though my focus was still with Maritas, and again, still, I was still testing the water, so to speak. So I don't know. Maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe I should have gotten some signs, but turns out I was chasing her and she was chasing him. The story of no one's chasing you. And it was that time that things were getting rough in the office. It became even worse when the company decided to move myself and some of the other grunts to a different satellite office in Ortigas. which is about 30 minutes away. Um, so not only was I farther away from Maritas, you know, behind me, Ariel and Maritas were actually seeing each other. You know, and I know I don't have claim on her, and I never did. But by that time, I was in too deep. And what broke me that time was when they finally admitted that they were officially dating. Um, and Ariel knew I had a thing for her, but still, you know. I mean, myself, I've had experience of liking a girl that a friend of mine fancies, and I never tried to steal another girl from a friend. Because I just think it's bad karma. And he would joke about me liking her and all that, but behind it, he was actually chasing her as well. So I was like in the satellite offices. Was the worst experience of my life. That office was like a dump, and actually it was the building where that office was situated was where Trish and I used to go to when we were dating at that time, because the radio station that she followed was there. But that's another tangent away from this story. So I was really miserable. I loved the job, but I was miserable in my environment. And I was also miserable not being, just being heartbroken. And I guess you might say, yes, it's my fault. I should have said something earlier. But I was enjoying the moment. Maybe it's not the best of strategies for a guy like me, but at least I could say that a part of me was happy. And when I found out about Ariel and Maritas, it just broke me. I lost inspiration to the work, and being far from my boss and the office. And it wasn't about me finding the glamour of the office. It's just the inspiration wasn't there anymore. And I finally told Annette that, it was the end for me. And I really wish I could have stayed longer there. And I tried. Annette knows that I tried. I did my best. But there was nothing there anymore. I guess the lesson for me in this story is that never trust anyone who looks like they're giving you a lot of reasons to trust them. Always be pessimistic in some way. Always have an open mind. Don't be target focused, because I was target focused with Maritas, and I failed miserably at that. Since then, it's not that I didn't try anymore to find a relationship, but it's just that I've always found myself saturated with trust. It's more of feeling that I don't deserve them. You know, that I really had very low self-esteem after working for C3, and but I've moved on, and it made me move to write 50 chapters of a self-written book that I posted on Blogspot a good 10 years ago, and had my friend GT, and this writer said to me, a real true friend, because he read all of it. He is gonna probably be ticked off that I told the story in however long this video is, that he read it for 50 chapters. But my story, what I've written, was more detailed compared to what I'm telling right now. And I guess in some way my search for happiness has never gone, but I just don't, having lived the corporate life, having lived the high life of going to dinners, bars, night outs and all that, are all in my past, are all in the shadow of my past. And this is why I mentioned before that, you know, maybe I am living in the shadow of my past. And I just look forward, you know, YouTube is my community now. YouTube is where I am. My story might be disappointing, but I hope you guys enjoy this moment, having some gulaman with me and a bit of a chat. Today is well, it's okay. I've had better Mondays than this, but it's not a sad Monday for me. A little bit tiring, but you know, I try not to complain too much. I did go around the mall a bit just to relax, but I'm just happy to be with all of you. And I hope to see you again here at the Metro. Please do give this video a like, share, and subscribe. Bye, folks.